Assalamualaikum and have a good day to my Madam Nurhatini binti Harun and my friends. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Muazzah Ashifat binti Muhammad Amran. My matrix number is 03DAT19F1023. This presentation focuses on survey the rental house for Polimas students. For your information, most students live outside than in hostel for this semester. This is because only semester 1 is allowed to stay in the hostel. Before this, anyone was able to apply for a hostel, but now, not anymore. So, we would like to know the situation of students who stay in a rental house, whether they have any issues or problems that arise.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To our lecturer, Puan Nurhatini binti Harun. My name is Elina Fatini binti Adilah and my matric number is 03 DAT19F1005. Next, I would like to give you an overview of the objective, population and instruments. Firstly, objective. Our objective is to investigate the issues that arise between the landlord and the tenants in acquiring the rental house. Secondly, the targeted population that we choose is Polimas students. The reason why we choose Polimas student is because they are easy to reach since we are in Polytechnic. Lastly, the instrument that we use to gain data for this mini project is Google Forms. Why do we use Google Forms? It is because no paper was needed and students could fill it up directly without wasting their time.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Nur Ali Sabah binti Rosli and matric number is 038019F1016. So now I want to explain about limitation that we face it to getting the respondent from our topic, a survey on a rental house from a Polimas student. So limitation are issued and occurrence that they develop during the course of study, and they limit the scope of the study and occasionally have an impact on the final result and the conclusion that we can be drawn. So there are subsequent limitations, and the first one is constraint to the collect respondent from many people. Okay, because of that, most of those who are respond to our respondent are from semester 5. So we had a hard time to getting feedback from another semester like semester 4, semester 3 and semester 2. And we also had to find out their problem with their rental house because of we got many respondents from semester 5. And we also having trouble getting public feedback because of our topic just focus for the only student Polimas. So just the student Polimas have to respond. So the secondly is a limited time to promote a Google Form to all students. Because all of the students now are busy with their assignment, their assessment, and it is difficult for them to provide the time to give the respondent. And it is true for us to disseminate the link to all the students in the short time period. We also contact from another semester, hard to we forward the link through the WhatsApp or else. So I think that we struggle to forward to all the group WhatsApp to get the respondent. So the last one is the constraint to open the Google form because of the connection problem. I think because to open that link, it take a lot of power of internet, and also there are people who have an issue with their internet problem, can be relative weak, making it difficult for them to open it, and hard for them to open that link.
Hi, my name is Nura Aminta Abdul Kadi, and my registration number is 03D8019F1015. I'm from DUE50032. In this part of my presenting, I would like to talk about pie chart, and the title is Student Opinion to allow tenants to enjoy private space and the landlord cannot use their key set to enter the house without permission from the tenants. As you can see from the pie chart, you can see that the different color have been used to indicate blue for yes, prefer to agree, and orange for no, prefer to disagree. Refer to the pie chart, you can see that most all of our respondents more agree with the statement than disagree. And I would like you to focus your attention on the statement that say the landlord cannot use their key set to enter the house without permission from the tenants. Why I focus that point? This is because the most landlord will shoot up all of the sudden to do overhaul and maintenance work without notifying the tenants in advance. In my opinion, if the landlord want to come to do the maintenance work, he should inform the tenants at least 24 hours in advance so that the tenants can be ready. Okay? Okay, for the second topic I will presenting is when the appropriate period for monthly rental payment that can be set by the landlord for the tenants. First, let me explain the graph. You can see that the different colors have been used to indicate opinion about the landlord who has set the rental payment period for each month. The latest segment showed that most tenants are reluctant to pay rents at the beginning of the month. The key in the left right corner is a sequence blue for early part of the month, orange for middle of the month, and purple of the end of the month. The axis present the number of the student, while the y-axis present the set of rental payment period for each month. Let me point out that most students who rent the house tend to pay at beginning of the months. Maybe from them, this is easier to pay the beginning of the months, and after that, there is not need to think about it anymore. However, some tenants are interested to paying the middle of the month, maybe because they consider with the calculation of expenses. So they do the calculation first, and before this they pay the rent. But somehow a few of them think that pay at the end of the month. Maybe they don't have money for the beginning of the month, so they decide to pay the rental end of the month. Okay. And in my opinion, this is better that we make the rental agreement whether the tenant has to pay the beginning of the month, so that the landlord does not to bother the tenants with the question to pay in the rental, and the tenant will feel clean. Okay. Okay, for the third, I will be presenting about the landlord who leave the rental house in the missing and unclean condition before the new tenants rent it. Okay. First, let me explain the graph. You can see that the different colors have been used to indicate that the landlord have left the rental house in the messy and unclean condition before the new tenants enter it. That the latest segment shows that most tenants tend to strongly disagree if the landlord leave the uh, rental house in the messy and unclean condition before a new tenant rent it. The key in the left corner sequence blue for a strongly disagree, orange for agree, purple for disagree, and pink for strongly agree. The x-axis represents the number of students, and y-axis represent the engagement with the above statement. Let me point out that most students who rent the house think that they are very justified with the statement, because no tenants want to live in the dirty and ugly place or house. In my opinion, the cleanness of the rental house before a new tenants enter the house is responsible of a landlord, not the tenants. This is because the landlord is also the owner of the house, and he needs to maintain his reputation as a landlord. I'm not saying that the tenants don't have to keep the place clean, but the tenants is only responsible of the keeping the house clean. Honest, they enter the rental house and the rental house until he or she leaves the house. Okay.
The following pie charts shows landlord's lack of discretion when it comes to resolving disputes. The majority of respondents, which is 64.4%, agreed with this statement, and the balance was not agreed. That is to say, when it comes to problems for students, a few landlords are difficult to deal with. In addition to this, I like to say that for some landlords feel it is not a responsibility for them to fix the issue once the house is rented. Any problems or issue that arise regarding the house should be resolved without involving the landlord. Now, let's take a look at the next pie chart. As you can see here, the chart shows that the factor of the rental house rate has been raised. The biggest segment indicates additional facilities with 44.6%, followed by economic growth with 38.6%, and the last is an increase in the rate without any reason with 16.8%. It is clear that the majority of the reasons for raising rentals rate is that the landlord provide more facilities for the students. It is fine because it provides comfort to the tenant. The landlord also wants students to stay not just for a short time, but for a long time. Economic growth has also been the cause of the rise in the rental rates. This is to cover the costs related with the house, according to the current value of the economy. The lowest factor of the rental house rate has been raised was no reasons, with 16.8%. To my mind, it is not good for the landlord to raise the price to students for no reason. Moving on now to the bar graph. As you can see, the top of the graph is the title, which is the landlord forces the tenants to pay earlier than the stipulated period. Next, from the left, we can see the y-axis, which is present the number of the students, and for the x-axis is the student's opinion. Last but not least, in the below of the graph is the legend. The blue and red bar from the data is students who is strongly disagree and disagree, while the orange and green bar students who agree and strongly agree. According to the chart, the smallest number of respondents are 13 students. Strongly agreed with the statement that the landlord forces them to pay rent before the stipulated period. The data can be continued with the majority of students voting agree or disagree. In fact, it is impossible to determine which is the measure. These two bars show nearly identical results. However, the difference between agreeing by 33 students by and disagreeing by 32 students can be seen. Charts are sometimes formatted in this manner to emphasize the difference. The landlord may have a valid reason for forcing the student to pay the rent before the due date. I would say that rent is paid yearly to avoid overdue payments by the students. Thank you.
So the next questionnaire is the landlord give the false guarantee in getting a rental house. For example, like a tenant has already paid the deposit house, but the landlord is willing to give the house to someone else who are pay more than them. So based on the pie chart, the most of the student answer no, and it shows that the some landlord are honest in that matter, and some answer is yes because of maybe they have experience of that case and that situation where the landlord aggregate to those who are pay more than pay with the. So the next questionnaire is security and safety feature. So based on the pie chart, most of answer is none. Maybe because of their rank is irregular terrace, so they close with the neighbor. So I think that can be safe for them to ask any help for anything. And who are answer for security guard and CCTV, I think they rent a expensive house, so that's why they have security and CCTV in their house. And for the first aid kit, I think then landlord should prepare that to make sure they can use for emergency case, and the landlord should make sure the house that to be rent is safety for all the people, to everyone to stay it, and to avoid from nothing seriously happen in. So the next questionnaire is the rental amount does not correspond to the house furnishing provided. Based on the bar chart, most of answer is agree. So that means the landlord does not provide home furnishing in that house. I think the landlord should provide adequate home furnishing to the tenants so that can easy for them such as provided a washing machine so the student do not have difficult to going out to the laundry and they just wash their clothes at home and should be in line with the rental price charge. Some of them answer the disagree maybe of the house they rent fully complete with the adequate equipment and affordable at the price they be charged.
Moving forward to the next question. As you can see here, the question given to the respondent is the landlord always consult and discuss with you if there are any question or any issues. You can see that two different colors have been used to indicate the answer, whether it is yes or no. According to the pie chart, the biggest segment indicate yes, meanwhile the rest is indicate as no. Let's look more closely at the yes answer. Based on the feedback from the questionnaire, about 91 students agree that their landlord always consult and discuss with them. This is because it is a lot easier to solve the problem rather than leave it unsolved and eventually turn into a fight. Besides that, it is more important for the tenants to live in the house peacefully without having any trouble that leads them to get out of the house without the landlord's permission. Let's take a look at the next question. The question given is, the landlord constantly maintains the occupied rental house on a monthly basis. That is, we wanted to take a look at how frequently the landlord maintains the house. As you can see, there are 4 different colors that have been used to indicate the respondent answer. According to the pie chart, the biggest segment indicates that the landlord maintains the house once a month, which is indicated by the blue color. Meanwhile, the red color indicates the landlord maintains the house twice a month. The orange color indicates the house was maintained thrice a month. And the green indicates that the landlord never maintains the house. Let's take a look more closely at the blue segment, which is the majority of the answer. About 66 students said that their landlord maintains their house once a month, which is generally a standard thing to do. This means that the landlord takes a good care of the house and makes sure everything is okay for the tenants to stay in the house. This means that compared to the red segment and orange segment, which are twice a month and 3 times a month respectively, the landlord makes sure that the rental house is in a perfect condition so that the tenants can stay in the house comfortably without having any problem. Lastly, of course, for the green segment, the house will never be maintained, which is why it should be avoided. Number 12. The purpose of the question given is to learn about the responsibility of the landlord in maintaining the main infrastructure of the house, such as pipes, electrical wires, and also any repairs to the building structure when damaged. As you can see, the blue bar indicates that the respondents strongly disagree. The red bar indicates that the respondents disagree. Meanwhile, the orange bar and green bar indicates that the respondents agree and strongly agree respectively. Let's take a look at the bar graph. About 56 students agree and 22 students strongly agree that the landlord maintains the main infrastructure of the house when damaged. This shows that the landlord acted immediately and did not let the house be in a broken state for too long. According to the landlord, the comfort of the tenants was a priority for him or her. Moving on to the blue bar and red bar. About 10 students and 13 students respectively respond that the landlord did not maintain the main infrastructure of the house when it was damaged. This shows that the landlord was very selfish and only cared about the money that he would receive. This type of landlord must be avoided because they will let us take care of the house by ourselves when anything happens. As a result, as tenants, we must exercise caution when looking for a rental house. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, for the conclusion, for me, finding the tenants who has a good relationship with the landlord is like finding the needle in the haystack. It is hard. Being and the ethical tenants is important because if it is not only maintaining the image of the person renting, but also has a reason they live on the someone else's property. Landlord cannot just collect the rental, but they also need to maintaining and repair the house. The tenant also have to take care of the rental property. Whether you like or not, there will be a time when a landlord will show up all of a sudden for the overhaul and maintaining works. Sometimes landlord need to charge how well and badly the tenants is taking care of the house. But before landlord visit the house, landlord should notify the tenants at least 24 hours in advance to tenants will be ready if a landlord to come. Okay, if a landlord provide the unit equipment like furniture or all such equipment should be well maintaining and must be in the same good condition as when the first tenant move in. Sometimes tenants, they are student and they have a big careless and they may damage landlord furniture or a unit. And however, this is a purpose of the deposit that a landlord have been taken to cover such the expenses. In my opinion, if you want to find the good landlord, you have to be kind to landlord first. Okay, that's all for me and my group members. Thank you for watching.